Hello, friend. Around 4 months ago, I made a video about the news of my father passing away. Today, I'm going to make the video about my father having passed away. Yes, I am still grieving, mourning, and missing him. And how do you distinguish between mourning and missing? How can you mourn a person and not miss them, or miss a person and not mourn them? And it is not just about the loss of a loved one, like a parent, but it could be the loss of youth, the loss of a job, the loss of a house, the loss of anything at all, any loss. How do you deal with it? And how do you live through that loss? So, today I'm going to make it a little bit personal about myself because my father, he gave me and my siblings 4 months to learn to let him go. Because my mom, she died in an instant. She just died. The previous night, she cooked dinner for the family. The next morning, she fixed breakfast for all of us after doing her morning rituals, her shower, her meditation. She fixed breakfast and then she went for a checkup. And that's where she got her stroke and she passed away. So it almost left us wondering. It was like such a shock. No one could believe that mom was here and mom isn't here. Grandma was here and grandma was isn't here. Auntie was here and auntie isn't here. Sister was here and sister isn't here. So my dad did not do that. He gave us literally 4 months to learn to let him go. And the last 2 days that my dad was here, I got to hold his hand. I actually held his hand and was present with him. Maybe today, maybe some other time, I will tell you the story of all of that, of everything that transpired, because there will be a lot of things that I may not be able to share because it's hard to to describe the indescribable, how to take what's infinite and make it finite and use words in English to describe it. But I will try my best. But today I want to talk about grieving. How do you grieve? Some grieve in company, some grieve alone, some grieve and they're done with it. They move on. And some grieve for a very long time. And whatever it is for you, it's okay. It's good. It's right. You don't have to grieve someone else's way. Once I met a lady and she said, I'm grieving. And I said, I'm sorry. Like, you want to talk about it? And she said, my husband died. And I went into a state of like, I don't know what to say to comfort this lady. And I asked her, do you want to tell me more? And she looked at me and she said, yeah, my husband, he died 10 years ago. Now, I was in my 30s at that time. And I was like, 10 years ago, and you're still holding on to that? Today, almost 20 years later, I am like, yeah, I know what that lady was going through. She wasn't making a story about it. That was her process, that was her journey. And she did not have anyone to hold space for her so she could grieve and mourn. And her feelings became her story, they became her reality because when someone dies, they leave a vacuum. And you need to learn to fill up that vacuum. And you can't do that on your own. No one does it on their own. We distract ourselves with stuff, but it's just a distraction. The hollow remains unless you are in the presence of someone who's an who's a healer, who's an empath, not just as a healer title or not just someone who calls themselves an empath. They really, really, really have to be that person who can be the container in which you can step in and truly grieve and fill up that hollow and become whole again. So, whatever is your process, take your time. So, let me tell you a little bit about my daddy. He wasn't an angel, he wasn't perfect, he was a human. And being his daughter, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the lessons I learned as my daddy's daughter. And the greatest gift was that he held on till I showed up. And after I showed up, I got to hold his hand for 2 days because when I was born, he held my hand. He gave me his finger, and like babies do, they roll their fist around your finger and they hold on to you. And my dad did that for me. So it was a great honor to be the hand that he could hold, and I could feel his pulse in my palm as he took his last breath. And even when he took his last breath, because he took his last breath at 10:26 p.m., but the time recorded on the death certificate is 10:58 because although he took his last breath at 10:28, he, the doctors and the devices, the medical people in the devices, they could still feel his pulse, a random beat here and a random beat there. So after all his beats stopped and there was no more pulse anywhere in his body, it was half an hour. And when I was there with him, and this was in India, and I looked at, like, I was holding on to one hand, and my sister was on the other side. My brother in law was here, and I was holding his shoulder and sometimes his face, and I was kissing him and holding his hand. And he suddenly, I noticed a gray spot on the pillow. And I said, they gave him a stained pillow. And I was chanting. And then I looked again and I noticed two spots. And I said, so I missed the second spot the first time I noticed it. And so I kept staring at the two spots. And suddenly I saw a third spot appear. And I'm like, someone is here to help him cross over. And they are letting me know by showing up in those three spots. And I touched them, and all three of them were moist. And remember, they are like next to his head over here, like three moist spots show up. And I knew it was my mother, my father's older brother, and his younger sister. They have crossed over before him, and they came to take him. And I was like, wow, he's not alone. And as a Buddhist, I know for a fact that when a soul leaves their mortal body, so what we think of death over here is actually birth somewhere else. So they are being born in another realm. They are just dying from this realm. So the name and their form will be no more, but they are somewhere else. And that night, after we came home, he came home. We left his body in the cold storage because the next day we were going to go and cremate. And I had jet lag. I had 12 and a half hours of jet lag. And I was sleeping, waking up, sleeping, waking up. So I was drifting and dreaming, and I heard this loud bang. So I thought maybe it was the bathroom door, which was right next to me. But no, it wasn't that. But now I'm awake, right? So I decided to get up and go look. the bedroom in which no one was sleeping, the door was shut. I'm like, how did the door shut? So I opened the door and the light in that room was open. It was turned on. And I'm like, Daddy's here. So I turned off the light, left the door open, and I went and lay down. But now I can't sleep, right? So I came into that room and I chanted for 2.5 hours. And then I went off to sleep. It was like 4:30 in the morning. And the next day we showered, got ready, and then we went to the cremation ground to collect all the ashes and the bones with all the rituals. And my sister said, I'm not touching the bones. I'm not touching the ashes. So I took the three urns and I soaked all the bones and the ashes in milk and water, and then took them and put them into those three pots. And then we added some sweets and flowers and incense and camphor and all good stuff, and we tied them. And we took them to the, sorry, I skipped. We, the next day, we went for cremation. We went to cremate his body with all the rituals. And after cremating the body, we left it over there and we came home and napped, showered, all that good stuff. Then at night, I have my jet lag, right? And everyone has gone off to sleep. And in India, we create a small shrine for the person who has moved on. And we have make some offerings over there, but there is a lamp lit for 24 hours for 13 days. And the lamp is lit, and people come visit you and they make offerings, like mostly flowers. They offer flowers to the shrine which has been made for the person who has moved on. And it's 12:30 at night and I'm in that room. So that's like early morning, right? And there's this glass door which goes along the house, every room. Like there are four rooms, and every room has these glass doors. And on this door, I hear this banging, like, and I'm like, let me check because it could be the wind, right? But it's a rhythmic thump on the door, like somebody's banging, like, let me in, let me in. So I go and check the next room where the previous night the light had turned on and the door is shut. There's no noise. The other room, my sister is sleeping, so I don't step in. The other room, my brother is, and the door is open, no noise. I come back, and again, there is this thump. I sit and I chant again. So my dad was back. He didn't have a body anymore because the previous night he had a body, but this night he doesn't have a body because he has been cremated, right? And he is back trying to come into the house. So again, I chanted and then I went off to sleep. So the following morning, we go and take the ashes and the remains, the bones, whatever, put them into those urns, and we go to the river where we offer our prayers. And then we take a boat to the confluence of these three rivers and we immerse the ashes. And then we come back and we are all tired again, shower, eat, rest, wake up the evening. And again at night, you go to sleep. And me with my jet lag, at 1:30, I just wake up. I'm fully alert. And I'm like, I need to sleep. There's no need for me to be up, but I can't go back to sleep. So I sit and I'm like, okay, if daddy wants to come, there's no noise, nothing. I'm like, because now even the bones and ashes are not there. Everything is gone into the river, right? And I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, if dad wants to come, let him come. I'm awake now. Let him come. And I see this light, this huge light in front of me, which is like an upside down datura flower. It's this light, and it's like in waves, and I can see it lit in the room. And the room is dark, but I can see the light. And I'm like, wow, dad's back. I'm like, no, it's not dad, it's mom. And I was like, mom? Like after 16 years? And she's here. And look, and where's dad? And I'm like, okay, dad's still trying to figure out where he is and what's going on, because he doesn't have a body. He doesn't, is in the riverbed. So, like, his bones are in the riverbed and wherever his consciousness is. So I'm sitting over there, and then mom, she starts working with the family constellation, my sister, my brother, and I, and everything is good. And then she turns, and then I notice my dad. He's sitting on top of a cloud because he was lying on top of a cloud. And then mom is going to leave. And dad just gets up, and he sits up. He was lying on the cloud and he just sits up. And he's like so happy to see my mom. And my mom, when she's leaving, my dad's like, "You're leaving?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving. What are you doing? You need to come to." And he's like, "I can come." And she says, "Yeah." And he left. My mom and dad just left. So I knew my dad's gone now. He's not coming back. He's not reincarnating, taking on any human form. He's in the spirit realm. And my dad's sister and brother are there too, because he was very close to these two. He had 10 brothers and sisters, but these two he was really close to. And no one is fighting. No one is squabbling. There is no tension. And I realized these people, they fought so much while on the earth. They had so many disagreements, so many fights, so many arguments, so much nonsense and rubbish. And most of it was about money, right? That's what we saw as kids. I saw as kids. But now, no one. And I said, why do we do this when we are in this human form? Why do we struggle? Why do we have so many strifes? Why can't we just quit? Because on the other side, there's no fight. It's so blissful. It is so peaceful. There's so much light. There's so much love. There's so much laughter. There's so much joy. And I was like, wow. So now 10 more days, right? So my sister, my brother, and I, we are doing our rituals and everything. And then I come back over here. And it has been six weeks since my dad passed. So he passed away on September 16th. And today is October 31st. When I'm recording this, it is 6 weeks. And when there was the first month completion, we had a ritual in my house, and the monks came, and we all prayed and all that good stuff. And my brother said, sorry, my son, he said that he felt my dad's presence, like his grandpa's presence. He could see this blue light, and it was so that's his. I'm not, s- which is all good. My son, he exp- had his one-on-one with his grandpa. So 2 days ago, I heard this chant, which my dad used to chant, but I never knew all the words, and I heard it. So I stopped the player and I replayed it, and then I found out which one it is, and then I went and looked up the stotram or the verse. It's a sacred chant in the Hindu tradition, and I learned it, and I just wrote it down, and I have been chanting it, and I said, "Oh, Daddy is here, and now he's finally giving me his chant." And right away it was like, "No, you needed it, and you got it. Daddy is not here. He has moved on, and because he has moved on, I need to move on too." That was a clear indication for me. You need to move on, girl. So if someone asked me right now, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 0. Yeah, I'm doing a 0. I'm not even doing a 1. But this is what came up for me, because I'm a creative person. I love to write, I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to cook, I love to garden, hiking, walking, all that good stuff. And it has all been a stretch for me. Like, I don't want to do anything. But I said, I will show up. I will show up for myself so I can go on. I can continue to live and create and love and laugh and be here with you and share this story of how people move on and we need to move on too. And I know I work with energies and I can do this. I gave myself the time and the luxury to grieve and mourn and do whatever I need to do every day. Too many details, and I don't want to overwhelm you with any of that, but it's possible. So, if you want to know what you can do to move on, create. Create something. Just take a pencil and draw a flower, draw a heart, draw a smiley. Start something, start somewhere, and keep doing it a little bit every day. And trust me, from that zero, you will go to a one and a two and a three and a four. Because that is how you honor what you had. And you can still continue to miss. I know I will always miss my mother and I will always miss my father. And now I truly feel orphaned because although I have children, my children are not my parents. They are not here to watch my back. They are, I would never do that to my children. Yes, you can call it my ego, but I would never ask anyone to be there for me if I can't be there for myself. And in this process, what I'm learning is that it is easy, it gets easier to love, let go, and continue to live. So I will leave you with that go create something. And even if it's a smile, even if it's a PB&J, a sandwich, whatever, create something. And you will find this universal energy called love begin to flow through you. Because when my mother died, after finishing all the rituals, and I was there when my mother died, and you can read my book, I Am Alive, in which I have written the whole story. And in every story, I sprinkle a little bit about my mother and her passing. But I Am Alive, Lessons from a Bengali Tigress, is the book I wrote about my mother. And it was her story. And how I always feel her that she is alive. She's not dead. And I'll have to come up with a book title for my dad. But what I did, and that was 16 years ago, so I was 16 years younger, my children were 16 years younger. I came here and I got started with taking them to school, bringing back from school, cooking for them, picking them up, making sure they finished their homework, they showered, they brushed their teeth, they flushed, they washed their hands, all that stuff I got busy with. But this time I took the time to truly honor my grief.